we can use slang in a philosophical way?
I feel like it's just about shared understanding.
Hmm.
Like if you like when I say a word, you have to fill the word with your own understanding of it, and then we communicate through patterns that we have come to an understanding of and have become familiar with, and then through these patterns we communicate to one another and then try to build a basis of understanding. But because language is limited, it is still heavily up to the individual to explore their own soul or explore
Hmm.
their own mind, however you would like to phrase that.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of what we were talking about. I mean, not the
Sure,
whole thing,
at
but
least
that
at
was a
least
good
partially.
chunk.
Yeah, so I think that so you're kind of referring to two different sections of the theory that I have that you briefly went over, which was the personal understanding, the individual understanding of a term, which is oftentimes intuitive and unformalized. Most of the time, for example, you can't give me proper definitions for things like life or love, maybe, but you can still use the term in your day to
Yeah.
day with no issue. All of us use terms every single day, which we do not have formal definitions for, but we don't require them because language is a very intuitive action, and most people understand language unformally, at least for the most part. And then you also
Absolutely.
brought up the another faction, which is the populace, and the populace absolutely does matter. The accumulative nature of all of its past usage for a term is essential for understanding the term. For example, every single context in which the word frog has been used is very useful for understanding the meaning of the term frog.
Mhm.
And that is another thing which you lightly touched upon, and that is absolutely another faction of language. I put a third faction, which is also just as essential as the other two, which is the epistemic, and that is essentially saying the so this refers to terms which are either functionally required for further investigation. For example, the term like atom. You can't really continue doing physics or even do physics at all if you don't know the definition and have a shared definition of the term atom. But we also see this in other things like medicine or in law, where things are epistemically grounded or sharpened to be more precise and relied upon to do so for further investigation.
Okay, I love that. I if I could add my own words onto that, my
Yeah, go
understanding
ahead.
of what you just said is kind of like when I say chair, what do you think of? Are you thinking of a normal chair? How about I add more words? A rocking chair, a wooden rocking chair, no, better yet, a plastic rocking chair. But you still picture a physical image. However, when I say the word love, do you picture an emotional image or is it more of a feeling? And when I say love, is this represented through a hug, through a kiss, or are these still isolated actions? Because a kiss is a kiss and a hug is a hug, even though they stem from love, they are not the epitome of the word love. It's kind of like this, right? When I say the number 100, are you thinking of the number 100 or are you thinking of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 100? Now, if I say infinity, are you thinking of the concept of infinity or are you thinking of 1, 2, all the way up into infinity? You can't because that's impossible and we are bound by our own ignorance and don't even realize it. So when we use words like infinity, we are unknowingly ignorant to what we are saying because we often speak without having thought.
Yeah,
Well,
I
and
think.
also just
Well,
just as a quick note, like this is also very much against, as I understand it, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Apollo, against like Platonism, that there is like,
uh oh, he, he got banished to the shadow realm. He mentioned Plato's and he he became a shadow himself. Went to the land of the forms immediately.
Word.
oh, I'm back. Uh,
We're good.
dang, very smooth.
Plato was mad with you. You just got in trouble with him, I think.
No, no, no. I have honestly, I have deep beef with Plato. But and one of these areas is his sort of like that there is the good, right? That there's the good of the chair, or the good of the map, or the good of the book, and it's like I think that's silly, right? It's silly to have just like the standard bearer for all other books, all other glasses, all other this, right? Like that language is a matter of reference, not referentials, right? There's no inherent referential for what a switch is, right? A switch could be a knife, a switch could be a light switch, a switch can be a Nintendo Switch. So
Word.
like this idea that there's like the platonic forms of certain terms
Yeah.
is, I think,
Oh,
something
But
no.
that
that's the thing though,
we're
the
all
Yes,
against.
forms are not
it
hold on.
absolutely rejects the platonic forms
I
completely.
believe no, no, no. I believe you have a misunderstanding of what he means by forms, though, because forms are not words. You cannot speak a form. there is a form of a horse, but it is not the word horse, it is the experience of the horse. It is not the word switch, it is the experience of what you're referring to. You feel me?
Well, even that I
The
find
phone is
silly,
not about
but I'm just yes, you are right, slapstick. I'm just extrapolating that onto words as an example. But
okay,
yes, you.
okay.
But I also disagree with that from Plato also.
Dang, you really do have
Yeah,
beef with
I don't know
Plato.
if I completely agree with Plato on that, to be honest. But I do
I
think
think
it's cool to experiment with thoughts on like
I think
whatever.
it's a different thing for like a dog to ride a horse than like a person. Like to just use the example that you used.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the forms just kind of collapse like under any like metaphysical analysis. Like if what like just saying that there's like there is a such thing as the perfect salsa, the perfect vinyl. Like I mean, these things are not really something which can be accounted for, especially past the age in which he was living in. You know, the perfect cell phone. I mean, these things are, we can't have platonic forms for everything, and I definitely think that under given, of course, we have the retrospect, which is very helpful for this. That we just cannot possibly metaphysically articulate or even come to any conclusions
Now,
about how things could be more or less
this
perfect as a formation of a physical thing, especially within like our age of the insane amount of consumerism and diversity of products that we have.
Now, this may be changing the conversation, but if you
Oh,
were to
go
sit
on.
there and say that there cannot be a perfect form of a phone, would you say that we invent stuff or do we rather discover stuff?
I would
Because a
say
phone,
generally we invent stuff, but I would say that there is some level of discovery for specifically things like mathematics. I'm under the metaphysical position that is a discovered phenomenon and not a created one. But I think generally speaking, we are inventing things. So things like the iPhone, the internet, these things are invented and not discovered.
I mean, I'm
well,
of the.
okay,
Oh,
Unless I
oh,
mean, if you presuppose determinism is true, I guess you could say that these things are all discovered to that degree.
now I feel like it's like you kind of have to have both. You have to have invention and
yeah, I'd
discovery,
agree.
kind of, because it's like, can the eye exist without the light, and can
Oh,
light exist without an eye to observe it?
no, you're totally right. There is absolutely discovery and invention. I should have been more specific. So specifically, when I'm talking about invention, I'm referring to the physical rearrangement of matter to create something that is thereby sold or used. That is invented. However, when it comes to like the scientific process or the philosophical
Like
process,
discovering
I would
electricity,
say
for
that
me.
those things are being discovered. So, because the laws of
Okay.
logic I believe to be a fundamental aspect of our world, I would say that when we are making philosophical discoveries, to a degree, we are simultaneously discovering and inventing something, if that makes sense. And then for science, you by and large are discovering things.
Yeah,
I
but
would. I
back
mean,
to like, unless anyone else has something to say, like
oh,
back
I
to
just
like
want to be
linguistics.
very quick.
I would like to hear like more in depth on like what your the thing that you were creating or whatever it was, because you said that you had like three things. Like I'm not like I'm gonna be real. My memory is kind of, I have like short term memory loss a little bit.
That's no worries, man.
Oh, just
Is
re-
like
Yeah, but
I
what
would
were
just
your
like
thoughts?
and
yeah.
so
So, I'll get Apollo. Hit me up in the future. I'll let you explain this to Slapstick. And yeah, you guys, Apollo, good to talk to you. You know, to DM me if
Definitely.
you have any questions or want that letter of rec.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Adios, senors. And good to talk to you, Slapstick. Actually, I'll add you as a friend also, Slapstick. If you accept, awesome.
I
If you don't,
understand that.
also, yeah. Peace.
All right, slapstick. So, um, this is my linguistic theory. It starts off with the. Hold on one moment. Okay. It starts off with this language at its core, at its ontological core, is the structured of development. It's the structured of and deployment of symbols and sounds for the purpose of conveying information. This
What do you
information
hold
may
on?
refer. Yep,
What do you mean by destruction and employment? I ask a lot of questions, by the way, so
that's no
if I
worries.
didn't mean
So so I'll say it again. It's the structured deployment of symbols and sounds, which is to say,
okay.
yeah, I misspoke. That's my apologies. And so it's the structured deployment, the structured usage of sound or symbols for the purpose of conveying information. That is the
Uh-huh.
ontological core of language. That's what it is. Now, this information may refer either to external phenomenon, which is states of the
Mhm.
world, or internal states, which could be a subjective experience,
Yeah,
affect, or cognition. However,
absolutely.
the mere act of conveying information does not guarantee that what is conveyed is epistemically accurate, nor that the
Yeah,
transmission is conducted with critical precision or philosophical rigor. The capacity of a linguistic term to function communicatively is distinct from its capacity to capture the underlying structure of truth of the referent it names. So, to analyze this tension, I proposed the tribe model of definitions. This posits that there are three main definitions. There are three definitional stratas that all terms have. The personal definition, which is the intuitive, often unformalized understanding employed by individuals in daily discourse, shaped by personal experience and internal cognitive frameworks. The populist
absolutely.
definition, which is the socially aggregated meaning of the term as it circulates through collective discourse. This represents a diffuse accumulation of individual understandings and cultural norms. And then the epistemic definition, the critically analyzed, systematically articulated definition grounded in disciplines that prioritize epistemological accuracy, such as the sciences and formal philosophy. These three definitions coexist and often diverge within a single term. The balance among them is context sensitive and term dependent. For example, in the case of the term phenomenology, its populist understanding remains relatively close to its epistemic grounding due to its restricted usage within academic discourse and the selectivity of those who deploy it. In contrast, though, a term like freedom demonstrates a substantial divergence between its populist and epistemic usages, especially given its ideological saturation and the widespread rhetorical development. Um, it's important to note that not all terms show the same divergence across this tri-model. So basic indexical or high functionality terms such as me, you, this, now, often display semantic cohesion across all three layers due to their foundational role in linguistic operations and their relative immunity from conceptual reinterpretation. These terms serve primarily referential or structural roles and thus do not typically occur any metaphorical or ideological
Are you
distortions.
reading something or what is that?
Yeah, it's my framework. It's my
Yeah,
Okay.
I
linguistic
would like
framework.
you to send
Sorry,
this to
I'm
me.
sorry.
This is
I'm sorry.
amazing. This is an incredible way to
Okay.
put
No,
what
no,
I've been
keep
trying to
reading. Keep
explain to
reading.
people.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's no worries at all. So, meaning is dual. In part, it is the intersection of these three definitions, while the epistemic side also possesses a type of epistemological accuracy, making it the most structured, formal, and quote unquote accurate meaning of the term. From this, we now can map the definitions into zones, which are the following. The intro zone. Definitions characterized by high degree of epistemological precision, internal coherence, and foundational relevance within an academic or scientific discourse. These terms are operationally defined or function as axiomatic conceptual primitives for further inquiry. So earlier I used the term atom to describe this. If you want to do physics, you have to use the term atom correctly. You cannot misuse it. We see the same thing with medicine and the same thing with law. So, white zone. Definitions that are functionally operational in everyday discourse and broadly accepted within common social use, but may lack full epistemological rigor or internal consistency. These terms are pragmatically sufficient, but semantically approximate. So, the way that most people use the terms like love or intelligence, they might not be able to give a formal definition of these things, but they can still use them nonetheless in an accurate, at least to some degree, manner. Now, the gray zone refers to definitions that exhibit partial or ambiguous epistemological grounding, and these are often found in metaphorical, figurative, or ideologically charged language. Though not strictly coherent, they retain functional utility or emotional resonance. So, for example, stuff like vibes, or the way
Yeah,
that a lot of slang would fall under this gray zone. It's usually metaphorical. The black zone is definitions that lack epistemological coherence or semantic referentiality. So these terms are internally self-contradictory, metaphysically incoherent, or epistemically null. They may function rhetorically or ideologically, but cannot be validated under any truth functional or empirical framework. So the definition of a square circle or War is Peace by Orwell, these would be examples of the black zone. All definitions can be categorized into these four zones, and mapping the changing of a term's tri-definitions over time is the purpose of semantic inertia, which is a formalized version of this model, which I will get into briefly. And this states that a term does not change its meaning until pulled upon by an epistemic, functional, or social force. So, are you familiar with analytic philosophy?
Just like studying and looking at philosophy from like a skeptical and like scientific hypothesizing way, I assume.
Yeah, but specifically, I'm referring to the formal logic aspect of how philosophy is conducted today.
I'm not too familiar with like all of like the
So the
absolute,
mathematic philosophy, essentially.
kind of.
So that is what is being utilized in a formula which explains why all terms historically have changed their meaning. So I can send you the formula, and I can explain what the formula means if you would like. But
I would love like okay, it's rational to be afraid that people will steal your ideas, but if
it
you would
is.
be willing if you would be willing to like send me what you're reading or whatever else, like I would love to read this, kind of study it, and then like put my own words into it, and then like go back to Plato's and then like this and that and like relate it to certain things and then continue to
Sure.
make connections. Because what you're saying right now is incredibly intelligent and incredibly coherent, and what I tend to lack, I tend to have like understanding, like, well, no, I tend to experience without trying to understand. Like, I would say I've experienced God before, but I can't say that I understand God. You feel me? So
Sure.
it's like I
And
feel like when you said
that's a
like,
beautiful thing, by the way. Like the fact that you said you've experienced him, but not understood God as something. I think that's very very beautiful, and I think that a lot of people can relate to that.
yeah, so it's like I tend to like not have like the way to word or explain things, but like I've tried to explain the fact of like words are but shadows of true understandings and they prohibit you from coming into a full experience of something. And it's like to sit there and chase knowledge is like it's kind of like a double-ended sword because the more you submit to your understanding of something, the more you allow gaps within your own understanding. So if you can break away from knowing, then you break away from ignorance that knowing creates, if that makes
Mm.
sense. Because to know something is to not know other things, but to accept not understanding and then just like not understanding, but simply experiencing things as they are, free from the ego's attempt to grasp and hold on to things. It's like, I don't know, I'm just not the best at wording stuff, if that makes sense. But like
No,
you have
I totally
a like
understand it.
the way you're wording this right now is incredible.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that,
And then
and
the
I
way
do
that
want to
you're
say that like,
constructing
although I do think that it is rational to be afraid of others taking your ideas, I and I don't mean this in any disrespectful manner. You are incredibly intelligent, I can tell. You do not have the background necessary to formalize this or steal it. Like if you aren't familiar with, mathematic philosophy, you're not going to be able to formalize this and publish it. You know what I mean? It's not, but
Yeah,
that's not in no
absolutely.
way an attack to your intelligence. I can tell you are very
Okay.
intelligent. It is just to
No,
say
I
like you don't have
understand.
the background.
I feel you. Yeah, I feel you. But yeah, whatever
Um,
you're cool with sharing, bro, like please do share and share as much as you possibly can because I love to indulge in people's minds. Like I love
yeah,
to
okay.
explore really.
So hopefully this is going to translate well into a screenshot. All right, there we go.
Like screen
Let me crop
record,
this real quick.
screenshot.
It would be incomprehensible as a screen share. There is so much mathematical notation that you would like. I would have to, I'd have to explain so much of the ways if I just cropped
Bro,
it.
I could just screenshot it and ask AI to explain it to me. You feel me?
Yeah, that's funny. I wonder how it would do. I've used AI lightly with this project to have it like critique me over and over
Yeah,
again, but it's not the vast, in my opinion. I mean, that's done okay. Like, I've just had it critique me as much as you can, is essentially what I tell it to do.
Yeah.
And it's
Nah,
been
that's what
helpful
I
for like a
usually
couple
do.
things.
I use AI for inspiration and for critiquing, but I don't really allow it to do the work for me because then it kind of just
No, of course
loses
not.
what I want it
I
to
mean,
do.
it's just not that great at doing the work
Word.
for you. I mean, it's just not smart enough
Like it's
to.
cool to use the calculator, but the calculator doesn't know why you're using the formulas.
Yeah. All right. Upload a file. All right. Let's go to my captures.
All right, how will you be sending this to me? Is it gonna be in like the casual chat or is it gonna be direct? Okay, here it
It's
is.
gonna be direct. It's gonna be direct.
Okay, bet. But now, recently I've been like getting really deep into okay, just quickly, we don't have to like divert the conversation, but just like, have you ever used psychedelics before?
I have, yeah.
That is a really good way, in my opinion, to like expand your mind past the current restrictions that you've imposed onto yourself. To just step outside of your own ignorance temporarily. It's kind
Oh,
of
I
like
think absolutely. I would agree with that. I'd say that for me, I've described it as shifting all of your presuppositions.
word,
Um,
word,
which I think it absolutely does. Like, for example, when you're in a normal state, you're presupposing nothing around me is going to move. When you're on a psychedelic, that presupposition doesn't mean shit. Like, everything, things are gonna move as much as they want to. Like, if you're on like a high dosage of something, um, hold on, I think that was the right one. Um, I have like multiple different formulations of it, but that is that is semantic inertia. I will explain
So
it in a
how
sec after I.
how do you incorporate math into philosophy? Because
It's a great question.
I have explained things to math, like for example, like okay, exponential versus linear infinity, and I have a theory of like when you die, like this is just like a quick little theory, like when you die, like what if you relive your life like a flashback, and then right before you die again, you have another flashback, and then you have another flashback at the end of that, and what if that is hell? Because you are trapped inside of your own experience, separated from God's growing experience, because God will continue to give you more and better experiences in heaven apart from this realm or like wherever we go when we die type deal. But if we choose to reject him and instead decide to be our own gods, then he will allow us to be our own creators, stuck within the experience that we have created for ourselves apart from him, which is the life that we've lived, and that we will be infinitely living in a 1.1, and then we relive it again into 1.11, then we relive it again to a 1.111, eternally into a 1.1111111. And there is an infinite amount of moments inside of a single second because time is simply a construct. But we are continuously living in infinities, jumping over this hurdle of 1.111s into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if we don't allow Jesus to save us, then we will be stuck within ourselves in our own sin, and we won't be able to get over that hurdle of continuing into infinity, growing forever. Now, that's just kind of like a way to explain it, and I represented that through numbers. So, to symbolically represent things through math is kind of the point of math, but then to bring that to philosophy is a concept that I'm not too familiar with, besides what I've toyed with myself.
Sure. And I think that one, I want to say that is an interesting idea. In my opinion, I think that if we presuppose that hell is a real place, I think that it would be a pretty subjective thing. I don't think that there would be a universal hell experience because I think that hell as a concept would be structured towards the individual's worst nightmare. And I think that could be a framework which would lend itself well towards some. I think that for others, it might not be the same level of extreme torture, you could say. I also I think a good way of explaining that is like Sartre, for example, has a book about three people who are in hell and create their own hell because none of them are affirming the other's identity. And I think that although it's
What is
obviously
this
a very
book called?
metaphorical book, the book, which work of Sartre's is that? Hold on,
Or who was the one that wrote it?
Sartre.
How do you spell that?
Sartre.
Sartre. Sartre. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's no exit. That's what it is. That's what it is.
All right, bet. Bro, I'm getting so many good book recommendations from this Discord. I love it. This is like my first day being on here. It's
Oh
amazing.
yeah. Dang, bro,
Right.
you must have had a crazy time so far. Okay, actually, wait, I think I might have sent you the wrong one. All right, no worries though. You can just go ahead and ignore that first one. But you can look at it if you want. It's just a different variation of a similar formula.
Okay, so I would like you to explain like okay,
Yeah, I got you.
so is it kind of like the
Oh,
way
no,
that I explained it? Like it's like symbolizing philosophy through math and it's just like a
so
like
to an extent. So yeah, math. So in formal logic, we use letters to represent certain things, and then there's usually weights or other variants which are used to give and conduct further either explanation or elaboration on what is affecting something more than other things. So that's like where weighting comes into play, for example. So to explain this to you specifically, there are each one of these letters has a corresponding formula which justifies it and which explains it. But to give you a continental explanation, the the EA is the academic anchoring from formal disciplines. The EM is medical scientific anchoring, which is clinical or procedural usage. The EC is cultural inertia, which is religious, historical, and civilizational weight. The
uh,
ES is state/legal embedding, which is codified law or governance terminology. And the EI is the institutional discourse, which is usually media and school. So mass literacy or top down narrative stability.
okay.
And then the denominator refers to the M, which is the mimetic accelerator factor, which is where S.
It must be something God made. Because we don't know what that is yet.
Okay.
Yeah, for example, I brought up the sun.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I don't know if I particularly agree with that.
Mhm.
I mean, it must happen.
Okay.
But I can't think of any religion that it happens. Usually, they're guided by uh, some knowledge that they have.
Yeah. I mean, people did worship the sun, right?
Yeah, yeah, people still do.
For what
Like,
reason?
there's Hawaiian religions that worship, the trees and the water and the sun, nature, all these things.
Yeah, yeah, that's all I'm saying. It might be okay if they actually still believe in the that the sun is God or something. Lack of knowledge, I would say. If it's like
Lack of knowledge.
2025, yeah. If it's like 2025, So back then, we didn't have the knowledge yet.
What if it's not lack of knowledge?
Then it's back then.
No, but right
We
now.
didn't have the science yet, but we do have the science right now, right? We know
Yeah,
what the
but
sun is.
right now, there's people worshiping the sun, and there's not lack of knowledge. They understand
Sure.
science.
Okay. Do you think worshipping the sun is like worshipping something that is godlike, or what is that worshipping thing in 2025?
Not me personally, but there's people that
I know,
do
I
it.
know. Not me either, but
They
so
think
back
this.
then they
They think
didn't
the
know,
sun is
but they did.
God. They think this. They think the sun might be like a concentration of souls and consciousness up in the sky, a form of energy in the universe, like something like
Hmm.
some paganism, or not paganism. What's it called? What's that word called? When they believe the entire universe is a consciousness, collective consciousness. I forget what that's called now. Uh, Let me search it. No, it's a pantheism. It's pantheist. Spinoza's God.
All right. Okay.
So a pantheist might believe, might you could say they worship the sun. They worship the universe in itself and everything. And they take that as God. Einstein was a pantheist.
All right. For what reason was Einstein a pantheist?
For
Why
what
did he think
reason?
that?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sure he had his reasons.
he had divided thought processes about that. Like one process was like science, and the other one he actually believed in God.
Yeah, yeah. Einstein believed in Spinoza's God. The universe is God because he worshipped the universe and its
Yeah, because
complexities.
he was actually a clever person. He thought something had um, to produce all this what we have. Something had to produce that. There's nothing else. Nobody can think that nothing produced all this, and all that just happened for no reason. Something or something or someone produced all this what we have.
Yeah,
And why do people think it needs to be a god that produced that? It might actually make sense. Something needed to produce that. It, okay, some people call it God. I know I do. I'm trying to make sense, but difficult.
no, no, you're making sense. You're good.
Yeah, all I'm saying is Einstein was like divided by both things, like science and religion. I think he was on the right track. All right. I don't want to bother you anymore. It's all good. Have fun, man.
Yo,
Oh, what's up?
so what was that all about?
I don't know. We were talking about religion, and then Einstein came up, and
It seemed to me like both of you were holding a lot back.
right? Okay. What did I hold back?
I don't know, but that's just how it felt. It felt like when when people are like too scared to like talk over each other or whatever.
Yeah, to be just like nice to each other.
I know, but it felt like I don't know. I don't know how to describe it.
Are you doing the same thing right now?
With me?
Hmm.
I guess. Yeah, sure. I'm just chilling.
Fun?
I'm actually like just working
Yeah,
at the
good.
same time as listening to this, so
Right. I don't want to hold back, but what you're telling me I was holding back, don't hold back then. Give me what you thought about the conversation. What happened?
I don't know.
Like, be a moderator, like in hindsight.
I wasn't paying that much attention. It didn't. There were some interesting ideas that I heard, and then it just felt like it didn't progress.
Yeah. Why do you think he left?
Um, I don't know. Maybe he was bored.
Yeah.
Maybe he just.
Yeah.
I don't know. Personally, I don't see much of a. I don't like to blur the lines. Like, I don't like to create a distinction between science and religion. I think science is the new religion.
Mm. Science is the new religion. What is religion to you? How do you define that?
That which, like, people put faith in, what people believe.
Yeah, it can be science too.
Yeah. I used to hear all the time, like, when religion was more mainstream, it was like
Mhm.
the the the, the criticism of like atheists when it was like a popular like booming thing and everyone wanted to be atheists and everyone was like joining that side. They're like, oh, how could you believe in God when there's no like real hard evidence? And then now it's like
Yeah,
people believe in aliens with no real hard evidence. It just feels the same to me.
sure. Yeah, like believing in aliens, believing in God, believing in science. Which one do you think, out of all these three that I just said, is the most clever one? Like the most, something actually makes sense.
I mean, if we're talking about religion, like what you mean by that is like the traditional religions, like before science, then religion's definitely, it takes it easy. It's definitely the most clever. It has the,
Like morality wise, or
like, in terms of like profundity and the amount of epiphanies you'll get from it, and the like aha moments, like, oh, that makes so much sense. That's like a deeper truth than like even the objective truth that I didn't even think about. It's like a transcendent truth that like goes beyond objective truth, and things like that, you know? There's so much, such a like immense depth and beauty to like what religious beliefs, even though I don't differentiate, but I know what you mean by that, like religious texts and old stories and things like that, that like objective science, the way people look at it today, just doesn't capture. It's too, it rejects the fact that it is also dogmatic. Like, people, human beings are worshiping creatures. We will look for guidance in life. We need a sense of direction. We need something to point us to, like, okay, this is where we should go with our lives. So when we have that, we will go on that journey, and we will go, okay, these things are plausible. So because I know the vastness of the universe, I can also conclude that aliens must exist. So people will form these kinds of conclusions out of curiosity, out of the desire to go on a journey and things like that. But I often find that people who differentiate between science and religion, and they overvalue science, will go like, oh yeah, but science is all objective. Science is like the real reality, when really everything is filtered through our own subjective understanding of things, our own subjective experience, our own sensory experience. So it often feels like people overvalue science, like thinking that it's something that it's not, when really it is just another set of beliefs that is also changing. I mean, if science has proven one thing, it's that given enough time, all these scientific truths that we have will be proven wrong by newer scientific truths.
what is the ground for all that knowledge we have and we gained? What is all the ground for that? Is it first, and I agree with both, morality and science, like knowledge, science, which can be science. We have a certain knowledge right now, and it gets improved. In 100 years, we have more knowledge. Also, morality stays the same, right? I think that's what people think about. That's why people think religion is what I have to believe in, because certain moralities stays, all that stays the same.
Like,
But
like what? Like what?
knowledge, don't kill someone, don't do this, don't do that, just be a good person. All that stays the same,
I,
even in
I,
a million years,
I don't think
right?
that stays the same.
How is that?
Like, like, do
Right,
animals have
you're
that
back.
same
I hear you.
morality?
You're back.
Okay.
Yeah. Keep talking. Sorry.
Do animals have like the same morality? It, like, I can
All right. I
see,
have to be back for that one. Uh, Animals
yeah,
are in nature, right? So it all comes to the thing: are we human or are we animals? So when you are people who are actually believing in God, they think we as human beings are really completely different as animals. So you can't compare that.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
think we're
not
so
even
different though.
I'm not even religious. I'm just telling you. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think humans. I think humans are animals.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I think like I could see how, for example, the morality of like betraying somebody's trust is wrong. So I could see how that kind of thing would emerge, like in the hunter gatherer days when a human being needed to fight off like a large cat, you know, and it would take more than just one human being, which is how like which is my explanation for like how human beings develop like social behaviors. It's like you're incentivized to be social because like we do depend on each other to like survive during that time. So it's everyone, 20 people working together to throw rocks at the cat. But if one person gets scared and betrays their team, and you know they throw the person next to them into the cat and they get eaten and everyone runs off, then now they're all screwed. Now they all die because now they don't get a meal either. So over time, through that evolution, through the people surviving, through our own like we needed to develop these moralities in order to continue to survive as a species. I do see morality evolve like that. I don't think it's like it'll last for like a million years.
Did that develop through monkeys? So we developed to human beings, or was that just a jump? Um, Human beings exist and animals exist. Is that a difference? Like a cut?
Between humans and animals,
Yeah.
I mean, humans can't procreate with other animals, you know. But I
Where's the
mean,
cut though? Was the cut like monkeys or?
I don't know. I don't know if there's words for it, but gradual change into slowly
Yeah,
becoming
this is
more
what people
noticeable
don't
changes.
believe in. This is what people don't believe in. They think human beings are just human beings and the rest is animals. But I think we are all beings and we evolved from each other. But yeah, when you believe in God, you just think human beings exist. We are just higher beings and animals are the rest.
I don't think that's necessary. I think people can believe in God and you know have that be an independent idea and believe that we're also animals.
Hmm. In what way? Like in a middle way?
No, they just feel like independent ideas to me.
Okay, in a science way, people think we evolved through monkeys, right?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And in a non-science way, people think we are human beings. We are worth more. We have a soul, right? We have a soul. We eat animals, and these animals we eat don't have a soul. How is that a distinction? What is the cut? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't think there is like that distinction. I don't think we are like more valuable or that there is like oh we have a soul and animals don't have a soul.
All right, then we agree. This is the difficult part when I talk to someone who actually believes in God and believes in this and believes in that. When I tell them, where is the cut? How is an animal worth less than a human being? Which one has a soul and which one doesn't? Where's the cut when a being has a soul and a being doesn't have a soul? What is a being?
Yeah.
And when I talk to them, they leave. When I say that, they leave.
But I think okay, well I also haven't I've not had very many conversations about religion, to be honest, with like people that I know who like claim to believe in God but also believe in evolution. So maybe I should ask them about it.
Okay. That's all good, man. I enjoyed this conversation with you. I'm just always sad when I say all this in a good faith way and people leave. I don't like that.
Does that happen often in these servers?
Not really often, no. Just it just happened now. So in real life, with my good friends, they understand. I'm just upfront with them. But this is why I'm in this server. Some people don't understand what I'm telling them. It might be because of my language barrier. Yeah.
That
I
might be a
think
little bit.
I have a good idea, but if someone tells me I'm wrong, I am all for it.
So you said we agree on the things that I said?
I think we do, yeah.
Let's find a spot where we disagree.
All right.
Um,
About religion or about something else?
I don't know about anything.
All right.
Actually, wait, this is gonna be tough because I've really like been trying to like humble myself and like admitting that I don't know a lot. So it's gonna be tough for me
No,
to.
I don't know a lot either. I'm not saying I know everything. And just say one opinion. I'm from Europe. Where are you from?
The United States.
Okay. Any opinion about? Let's make it about Trump.
Yeah,
Let's say
sure.
okay, Trump. All right. What do you think about Trump? What he was doing right now?
Like with tariffs.
About the terrorists. Okay, this is a difficult one. About terrorists, I think he's actually doing something that is bad right now for the US, but in the long run, I think it's good.
I actually, I honestly don't know anything about the situation. My first instinct is like, is a sort of people call it like wishful thinking or whatever, but a sort of like
Okay.
dissolve the barriers, more freedom, more like less, being so harsh on each other and putting so many rules and restrictions on each other and that kind of thing. That's my first instinct to it. But yeah, like every time I tried to get into politics, it always got so complicated and unnecessarily
Yeah,
complicated.
yeah, I don't like that. Okay, yeah. I agree.
So I actually saw Trump a couple months ago at a football, like an American football game, a college American football game.
Okay.
But so I know he exists, but that's honestly all I know about him. I think he's just a guy. Some people here, like actually worship him, but like they idolize him, but
Yeah, which I don't like either.
yeah.
The best thing you can do as a human being is be in the middle. I think that's the only thing that is correct. There's nothing correct to be either on one side completely 100% or on the other side. It
True,
doesn't,
true.
yeah,
I agree.
it doesn't make sense.
Balance.
Yeah.
You have to
So the
balance.
balance is Trump is not always right, and the
Yeah.
other side is always not, also not always right.
True. He's a human being, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. I don't like when people idolize Trump. When people like put him on a pedestal. Because then they limit themselves. Then they go, "Oh, I could never be that." And he's just another person. Everything he's capable of doing, you're capable of doing as well. So. And when people go down that route of starting to put people on a pedestal and look at them so highly, they do that more and more and more as like it feels like a comfort mechanism of like making an excuse of, oh well, if I don't achieve great things with my life, that's okay because I'm not like these people. They're different from me. They're on a higher level than me. So I don't like the idolizing of him. But also it's like I said, we're worshiping creatures. We will find
Yeah.
something to put above us so that we can chase after that, so we can follow that, so we can take guidance from it. So when people go, oh, every single thing Trump does is bad and wrong, and even if I agree with it, I'm going to disagree with it just because Trump does it. You're idolizing
weird.
something else then.
Yeah.
But I don't know anything about the specifics of the tariffs or whatever. If it's
Yeah, this is just a one certain example. It
yeah,
doesn't matter.
if it hurts short term but it's better long term, then generally I would agree with like, yeah, that's probably for the best, looking out for the long term.
Also, the thing, just thinking about, he actually never started a war. He ended wars.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if that's true, but I think it makes sense when I look it up. I think it's true.
Yeah,
He actually never started wars, right?
all the specifics about like what he did and everything, they're so, oh my god, I don't know how it is in Europe, but like I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and in this city it's like extremely hotly debated. Like you could just go out in public and just find anyone and go, hey, you want to debate about Trump, and they'll have some strong opinion to say. But in my opinion, I think I like him more than I've liked the previous presidents because he's felt more authentic. That matters to me when like just like judging an individual. He's felt like Obama and them, like they always felt a little more fake. They always felt like they didn't want to get booed on stage. But Donald Trump was willing to be booed on stage. And that to me came across as more authentic. But then that could also be, playing the game because he's playing that side. Everyone over here has like a distrust in politicians, so now he's going against them to like side with the people. So that could also be an inauthentic thing. But I do like him, like entertainment wise and everything. All around,
Yeah.
I like him more than the other presidents I've seen.
Yeah, from a European point of view, he's so entertaining. Yeah? It's just fun to see these people seething about. I don't know, man. It's about really important topics, but
So do
he's actually doing the right thing.
Europeans generally think that Americans are like stupider than them?
Um, I don't think so. I personally don't think American people are stupid. I think they are just brainwashed. It might be a huge difference.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
And I think European people are brainwashed too, but not to that. Not like that. I think U.S. people are brainwashed more. I would
Do
have to say.
do people in Europe know about like that there's two political parties in the United States, like Republican and Democrat?
Yeah, they know. Yeah.
Yeah, that seemed like the Republican and Democrat thing always seemed like the most easy like brainwashing thing to like point out to people. It's like it's literally just a division of thoughts and ideas to give people like a sense of identity.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Either you're one or when you are talking about like 1 or 0, this is what it is. Like 1 or 0. There is no middle.
Yeah, right.
And in Europe we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know?
Yeah. With the idea of like being based, like having your own opinions, there should be no need to rely on a political party to tell people, "Oh, I'm this, so you can assume all my beliefs because of this simple thing I'm telling you." That's like accepting that you're simple-minded, accepting that you're just gonna, buy whatever they sell you.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems
everyone else is wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems so foolish that it should be easy to see that it's foolish, but I get powerful brainwashing. People, we're all susceptible to it. I guess,
So how can you explain that to someone who actually has the brain? How can you explain that to someone? They just
explain
all
like
this what we just talked about. How can you explain that to someone?
like
Let's say
if
someone is actually joining in this casual channel, and we are asking that person, what do you think about that and that? No, I'm 1. No, I'm 0. How can you
okay.
explain it to someone? It's so hard. It's tough.
Yeah, it is. It is tough. I've explained it to a few people, but it is tough. But it takes a long time, and it takes like I mean, I don't have like a set system of doing it. The last time I explained it to someone was like about a month ago, and it was to my cousin, and it was like she was telling me, "Oh, I'm interested in psychology. I have a passion for psychology." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, great. Let's get into it." And then we got into ego death. She didn't know about that, so I started explaining that to her, and then I got from that to the idea that when people put these labels onto themselves, they assimilate into that identity, whether or not they act like I basically explained to her because I was giving her the example of her own sister who falls into like a lot of labels and identities, and she's a very much like a oh, astrology and this is my, like, she relies on these things, like a lot of
Yeah.
different kinds of labels. And so I was explaining to her, like, as using her sister as an example of like, if you attach these things to yourself, you are at the mercy of them, you're at the whims of them, and you restrict yourself from growing and changing as an individual because you're I don't even remember how I explained it to her, but I explain it. I try to explain it like individual per person, depending on their situation. And sometimes it's been successful, but other times it hasn't.
Yeah, and keep in mind that is a relative to you.
Yeah.
And now imagine if it's someone who you actually don't know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like a friend or okay, let's say a friend. So tough to explain that to them.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I've ever really tried with a friend.
I did try, but gave up because I did want to force that onto them. It's not like you can't even force. You can't force like
Yeah.
what am I trying to say? Force like
You can't force people to
um
exit their cave.
to use their brain. Is that a thing you can say? Use their brain.
Oh, yeah, I would say that. You can't force people out of their comfort zone.
Common sense, like common sense. You can't force them. That stuff.
But hey, I mean, I'm optimistic about it. I feel as though most people will eventually at some point want to exit their comfort zones. They'll get bored by it, and then that's when they'll have the opportunity to learn.
It's a good word, common sense. And do you know why that person left? Because the um, common sense and the comfort zone was left. That's why I'm just gonna leave. That's all. All this guy saying is not
Maybe, maybe
yeah,
he could have
it's
like
just
had something to do as well. Like he could have been called or something.
I was trying to be nice, but like I was trying to be nice to you, right? You stuck around. All right. You wanna talk about something else, or
Yeah, sure. I'm just chilling. I'm doing my work while I'm talking, so I'm just gonna
yeah,
like
sure.
chill. But I'm down to talk about whatever.
Maybe it just comes up naturally when people join.
Yo, who are these other two in this inexorable pixel and you? I know any some very one.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, not doing
What's
too
going
bad.
on? What do you want to talk about?
I don't
Talk
know,
about.
what kind of things?
My accent is so weird. Any certain thing you want to learn about or talk about? Or you just want to listen?
I'm open.
Dang.
So what was your reason for joining this Discord server?
Good question. Who are you asking?
Both of you, I guess.
All right, question mark you. Let's go.
So, I think the answer says much about the reason, to have good questions and to have good answers, hopefully.
I know that a voice, by the way. You have to turn your mic on. It's really low.
I'm just half asleep, that's all. It's a bit early in the morning.
I know that voice, by the way. I know who you are. That's fine.
Yeah, I think I've seen you in a couple of voice chats a couple of times before.
He's a clever guy. So the reason I joined was, first of all, listening to people, how they actually communicate with others, and also the determination when people don't have like the degree and they have the degree when it comes to philosophy, and they think when they have the degree they think they are like they think when they read some certain books they have more to say, and all that is for me really interesting.
Yeah, there was a level of sociology, I guess, to do with that, with this acceptance of kind of what it means to be in the know of a field, but based on social feedback of this is acceptable. The education industry comes into that, to which there was a conversation going on a bit earlier today regarding that, about the education industry, traditional education versus Montessori education.
Yeah, education and conversation, that difference. And you, Frog?
I don't know. I guess I was just bored.
I love that. You know, when someone says I was just bored, with you, I had the most interesting conversation ever. Just someone saying, "Oh, I was just bored. Yeah, I'm just chilling here." With this guy, I had the most interesting conversation ever with Frog.
Well, yeah, we have to if we're bored.
I mean, this is what I'm saying. You don't have to read fucking books to have philosophical conversations.
Well, while that is true to some extent, the other day someone was like, "Oh yeah, I kind of." They were talking about their past, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I thought I figured out this whole thing about how life is and everything." And then I talked to my friend who's in philosophy, and he's like, "Yeah, that's a thing called nihilism, and many philosophers have talked about it." And he was like, "Oh, right, I never realised that." So I guess to a certain extent, it's kind of the the humility in our own understanding of the world, and that, well, perhaps someone's already done it and talked about it, and philosophy kind of tries to capture some of that somewhat.
True, true. There's a lot of wisdom to take from these books and people that came before us. I often find that people who read a lot of philosophy are like a lot of times more limited in their thinking, if anything.
Might be, yeah. It might be. This limited thing might come through some people who are trying to say, if I am actually studying that and that word, what is that word? Studying. If you're studying something like philosophy, doesn't mean you have more to say about philosophy. This is what people don't understand.
No, it does mean that.
I mean, it
In
depends on
what
how you
sense?
look at
How
it.
do you mean that?
If you're more focused on the destination of understanding the complete, like, final philosophy to end all philosophies, then sure, having more knowledge works. But if your focus is on the destination,
Okay, yeah.
journey, and the enjoyment of the process of learning philosophy, then you might want to take your time. You might want to,
It's the knowledge. Yeah,
even
it's the
if the
knowledge
knowledge is
about
already out there, you might want to
philosophy.
learn, figure it out yourself instead, you know?
Okay,
Yeah, but it
Mike.
does mean that you
Mi-
know more and that you like are probably better equipped to talk about it than the average person.
All right, just talking about certain books or certain philosophers who wrote books in the past. Is that all about philosophy, or
It's a
what is
pretty
that all
small
about?
part of what you study in philosophy. More just like
Exactly. So,
how to
what
think,
we are doing in here
how to
in
write,
this philosophy
and how
chat,
to express your ideas.
just chatting about certain books and the understanding of these books, right?
What about the?
But what exactly is philosophy then?
Well,
I can
I
like pull
mean,
up a definition.
right
In a
now we're
second.
trying to do
Yeah.
meta philosophy or philosophy of language, like you said about what is study, what is philosophy. Well,
Okay,
we're
a
using one of
systematic study
those
of
three.
fundamental questions concerning existence, knowledge, values, reason,
Yes.
mind, and language.
Exactly. Yeah. You can. Okay. Wikipedia. Okay.
I mean, I would say etymology is a good thing to be aware of. Like, what do these words mean, and how they mean different things
I
over
think
time? That
I
kind
think
of gives
phil
a
means like love,
history.
and or soft means like knowledge. So it's like love of knowledge in like Greek or something. Maybe it's like the other way around. Like
It's
that.
well, I mean, it's love of wisdom. It would be
Oh yeah,
better.
love of wisdom.
Okay. Can we all do that without studying it?
Um, like studying it formally in a university. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have to do that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but studying in a university gives you credibility, you know, and
That's all that it gives to you, right? Not all, but it is the most part that it gives to you, credibility, right? You can say, I studied
yeah,
it,
because
and
then you
now
can have like a
that's
reasonable
it.
amount of like trust that this person knows what they're talking about without having to verify for yourself.
So what about if certain people don't study philosophy, but they read everything and more and double what people
Okay.
studied?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
there's
that's
like
possible,
people
sure.
on here are called autodidacts because they have self-studied. So
Yeah,
there's
sure.
nothing wrong with that.
So you
Like,
can say self-studied. Okay.
yeah,
I
like
mean, yeah,
if you
obviously there are going to
school
be some
or
people
it's
who are like,
self-studied, still studied.
there's going to be some people who are like lazy bums in college and didn't learn anything. And there's going to be some people who didn't go to college and are like just freaking geniuses who read every book out there. And so on both sides, there are going to be exceptions.
Yeah, or they studied something else other
Sure.
than philosophy, but they can still talk with people who did study philosophy, right?
I
Well, that's
suppose, yeah.
true. But then it's about content of knowledge in order to communicate about that content.
So all about reading certain books.
Not necessarily. You can learn not by reading books. You can learn by talking to other people.
I agree. Yeah. Talking to people.
I
All
do
right, I'm
recognise
trying to be
you.
an asshole here. Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, you said that. Well, I mean, I was going to kind of like try and approach some kind of common ground with you and say, yes, there can be some intellectual elitism, but that can be in any field or even in any social thing, like a kind of aristocracy or some kind of like hierarchy of power imbalance. That can just be in any kind of social thing.
Yeah, it's about a certain knowledge, right?
Well, no, that's
Like
the point of a
reading books.
where it's not necessarily always just about the knowledge. It's about what to do with that knowledge, how to kind of like come about knowledge, or like being
Okay,
critical thinking.
how to when you have that knowledge and you gained that knowledge, is that like something someone teaches you to use that knowledge and gain that knowledge? Who teaches you that other than the professor? Is the professor telling you use that knowledge?
I don't know if we're just having a miscommunication on what you're meaning and what I'm meaning.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because this is hence why I made sure check with the guy that came in just now, briefly, when there's talking about the word of it, and you said, oh, you're just reading off Wikipedia, and I'm going, is that you being elitist when he's trying to come out from what he's saying something? And I corrected him in saying, well, actually, it's love of wisdom, like the meaning of the word, where it came from, not knowledge,
Yeah.
like. Because it's trying to be recursive or thinking about thinking to some extent.
Yeah.
Like the word epistemology is, in simple terms, how do we know what we know, and how can we kind of validate that, and how can we check on our knowledge? It's not just knowing stuff. It's how do we think about knowledge? What do we think is true? How do we think about things being true? Like, if I said to you, lions have sharp teeth, and you've got
Wait, say it
squishy.
again. Sorry, say it again.
Like, if I said to you, lions have sharp teeth, and your arm is soft and squishy, you could know those two things in the sense of, and this we can go into the Greek of different words for knowledge. This can be literally just my hearsay to you, as in I'm giving you hearsay. You've heard it, that I've said it, just some words. Is it common knowledge? Do you have experiential knowledge of what that means? Maybe not. I mean,
would you be wise with that knowledge? As in, would you know, just from that I've said, lions have sharp teeth and your arm is soft, would you know not to put your your arm into a lion's mouth? I didn't tell you that, did I? I didn't give you that
Yeah.
knowledge. But would you
Yeah,
come to
well,
that knowledge yourself?
all I'm saying is, do I have to hear that from a professor that after certain years, the knowledge in my brain is like, yeah, oh, obviously lions have sharp teeth and my arms shouldn't be in between those sharp teeth.
Right.
Who is teaching me that?
So, I mean, good question. I'm not sure who taught you that. But what I'm
Yeah, but
telling
who
you,
taught you that, for example?
well, I would say I have realized that by compounding knowledge, some of which I've been given, some of which
But
I've
you weren't
experienced.
in Africa either, right? Or have you been? I'm assuming.
No, I haven't. So I don't have
Yeah.
experiential knowledge of that.
Mhm.
I, to some extent, taking common knowledge and to some extent related experiential knowledge of, yeah, I've kind of cut myself and I've scraped my arm, like when kind of out in the wild of like thorns or whatever. But
So I have to be. I don't have to be like knowledgeable to know that. Maybe the example is just too simple. But
it
if
is
I
too
if I'm
simple. I
like
mean,
3 years old, I know something sharp cuts on my arm.
do you?
When I'm young, yes,
What do you remember
yeah,
of being 3 years old then?
Oh, I remember when I was like
I know that
5.
something
I did
hurt.
not know scissors would cut me, bro. Like I cut my arm, I did not know they would cut me.
Okay, then 4 years, 5 years. Something hurts, right?
Oh, I'm not saying you
Scissors
don't
or
know. I'm not
a
saying you don't
knife,
know about
it
pain.
hurts.
I mean, pain's
Why
another
do I
one.
need a professor to tell me that? That's my question.
I'm not saying you do. I mean, so we're being quite specific about professors in philosophy, but I'm not. I'm giving the wider case, and this is literally thinking about what we say and how we think about things. I'm
Mhm.
literally doing that, which
Yeah.
is you're giving it this niche case, and I'm trying to point towards the broader picture of no, as individuals, we learn from society, from the collective of individuals, not just in the ones in the present moment in time, throughout the ages. That's been passed down in a social kind of structure, this information. That's why humans are the way they are in the world, and we're the quote unquote
Mhm.
top species, because we've had this thing called society that passes down all this information to an individual. Sure, other animals have society, but not to the level of complexity we do. And I'm not saying we're above them in some way. I'm just trying to highlight kind of like
Mhm.
this thing called society and this informational thing, which is
Are
what
you
gets
saying that
individual.
knowledge evolves, or are you saying we evolve in our brains, knowledge-wise, ourselves?
I'm saying if you as an individual that was completely born out in the wilderness and didn't
Mhm.
have the environment of a human society, I think you'd be very different. Would you agree with that?
Again, sorry.
If you were born in the wild with no other human social contact, literally just in a jungle or in a forest,
Mhm.
you were born and somehow you survived, because for the most part humans are born and they're not able to survive on their own, unlike other animals that can actually walk in kind of like vaguely have some sense of kind of mobility, other mammals. Let's say, I don't know, you were in a plane crash at a few years old, you're a baby, 3 years old. Would you survive? Would you actually be able to get to the point of what you know now,
No,
even if you
like
survived?
no animal would ever survive. Nobody would survive.
No animal would
But
survive.
yeah,
Well, I think
when you're
animals
3 years
survive.
old in animal in human being time, what does that have to do with what we're talking about?
I'm trying to say, so, and trying to be courteous to you, say, well, how we as an animal compared to other animals, our physiological development and is woe-betide for us to survive when we're born compared to other animals. However, that is due to the fact that our societal structure provides to a newborn the ability for it to kind of actually carry on bit surviving till it can get to the state of having some level of autonomy. And even our societal structure, you could argue, is holding us back in that, well, we have to now work in the society in a very kind of convoluted way for our immediate needs, such as money and all sorts, but more to the point of, well, actually, our societal structure gives you so much knowledge, which you say is common knowledge, and I'm going, you wouldn't have that if you were
No,
out in the wild. You wouldn't have that if you didn't have the environment
of
for you
course,
to have
because
those
it
experiences.
evolves, right? It evolves. All that knowledge evolves.
Yeah, and it's evolved over time through society. And you're having a gripe about professors, and I'm saying, yeah, you don't have to necessarily get it from a professor, but to some extent, they
So
are going to
I
have
think
that
what
niche
okay, yeah.
evolution of information.
All what I was saying is human beings can make all that what we are doing right now by saying a professor has to teach us certain things about philosophy. They can evolve by themselves, like you even said yourself.
Yeah,
We can evolve
yeah,
by
okay.
ourselves, and that's it. We it's
And I'm
about
not
time,
saying,
right?
I don't
You
think
just
that's
said that.
an argument. I'm not trying to put it in a black and white kind of situation. I'm trying to say,
Hmm.
what's the difference between it? I'm trying to go, can someone actually get more information where that information evolution within society
Yeah,
has
by
been
communication. Yeah,
one.
I agree. Yeah,
Well,
we can
I'm
by
trying to kind of
communication.
emphasize that there's probably a different level of communication or a different level of evolution of this information over time if it is by a group of society over the historic course that
Hmm.
is towards this
Yeah,
specific niche called quote unquote
I agree
philosophy.
completely. I agree
Right,
completely.
okay. So we're in agreement that yes, it's not
Hmm.
exclusive, but also there is a level of quality to why it can be considered
It's a
that.
communication. That's why we agree, right? It's a communication. How people evolve in terms of knowledge. Obviously, we have to communicate with each other, right? That's always the same thing. We communicate. That's how we gain knowledge. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it's but yeah, but the thing is, at what levels of society, and I'm not trying to promote the elitism. I'm actually saying there is a reason why that people could have already communicated this kind of stuff over time, like any field of study. They've communicated this stuff over time, and that's kind of why academia as an institution exists to try and formally go about conveying that history and that compounded knowledge.
I agree. Which is by communication, but I get what you're saying. Yeah. The
And
terms
again,
of communication is sometimes a bit difficult what people are trying to tell others, and some people know more than others, and that's the not even an issue, but some people know more than others, and if they are willing to teach people who know less, that's the good part. This is what we are calling these people professors, right?
but
These people
not
who know
necessarily
more.
that it has to be that
Yeah,
we
no,
call
yeah,
them professors. But yeah, I do get the good part of sharing information, and that's kind of one of the magics. Again, what I pointed to, the magics of our species and our societal structure that kind of gives us this position that as individuals we can be in.
I guess it should be that way, but not all people thrive to be that way. If you know more, you should teach more.
Well, that's all well and good, but what if someone is trying to teach and someone is refusing to learn?
That's different. Yeah.
Like, would that be a wise approach for a teacher to try and continue, or would that be a wise approach for a student or a not student, as the case may be?
Yeah. So from what
And I don't
side?
mean
Yeah.
academic institution. I mean more generically.
It's a bad approach from ignorant people, I guess.
Yeah, like there's multiple things I thought. Well, is this person aware of? He's talking about communication and for this information and having a conversation, and I could go, well, we could point to Wittgenstein and like, well, all language is kind of between people. It's in the kind of two people having a common kind of interaction of information that they can both kind of understand to some extent and share. Or
Yeah, but what is understanding? That is where it stops from between people who actually know something and people who don't know something. The understanding part is the in between part. So if you actually understand way more than the other person, you gotta try to tell that other person what understanding even means.
well, I mean, now you're conveying kind of both a ethical kind of
Yeah,
prescription
if it's
saying
about a topic,
one
yeah, I'm
should
just talking
teach.
if it's about the topic. If someone doesn't understand that certain topic, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, and I'm trying to point to metaethics slightly, in that you gave a prescription that one individual that knows more should teach to the other individual. I mean, that's an ethical position saying
That's
that,
a
like,
moralic.
yeah, that's a moral kind of prescription. Then
Mm,
we could split hairs about the difference of morality and ethics, but let's lump them together
yeah,
for the moment. Yeah, sure, that's. But then I'd say, why should they do so?
yeah, I agree. Why?
Like, there's the Taoist philosophy, which would actually say yes, that is the case.
I
Why
think
are
that
you doing this? Just a question, a final question. Why would you think you're doing this? Just like
With
talking to me, for example.
um, I think I can give several reasons. There's, well, part of it
Hmm.
could be it could be a sociological need that we have to interact as social species. I could be personally curious about you personally.
Okay.
Why are you doing this?
I think when it
Okay.
comes to explaining knowledge to ignorant people, you absolutely should to those who are open to it. But
Mhm.
like, I feel like some people convince themselves that they're open to it, but they've deceived themselves into thinking that they're open-minded and they're just delusional. And I find myself
Some
falling into
people,
that sometimes too.
some people think they're open to it, but uh, it's like a forceful education, if you will. Some people actually try to forcefully educate some other people, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work most of the time.
Yeah. I don't think there's any use in trying to open a mind that wants to stay closed, especially because you can even convince yourself that your mind is open and their mind is closed. But then isn't that just you thinking that you're better than them, which is kind of just like ignorant?
Mm,
So it's like it's just kind of like oh, do I believe I'm right? Yes, but should I enforce this on other people that don't want to hear it? No.
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But then it's like more objective things like, is love good? Absolutely. But like, is murder wrong? Absolutely. So should the death penalty be a thing? Absolutely not. But, like to sit there and go to a different country and tell them to change their laws, I feel like that'd kind of be like changing their culture a little bit, even though their culture definitely doesn't surround around the death penalty, but it's still kind of just like, come on, bro.
But even though you just said this is wrong, absolutely, this is right, absolutely. Um, don't you think it should be known in like universally, like everyone should know that because it's absolute, in your opinion?
Well, I think that's kind of like this, right? Is it absolute that people have eyeballs? Well, like I think that it's like absolutely true that like majority of people are born with eyeballs and that majority of people are born in like a form that's akin to one another. However, there are people who are born without eyeballs and they're born with like an inherent ignorance to sight. You can never explain colors to someone who's colorblind, but that doesn't mean that color doesn't exist. Because it's like you could go down like existentialism all day. Me personally, I'm religious. I believe in God. I believe that there is objective truth that is obscured by the devil, but that's just like a personal thing. Well, I don't believe that it's personal, but I understand that other people believe that it's personal, so I kind of just like acknowledge, like you feel me? It's like, like
That's
Yeah, so
respectable.
the morality came from your knowledge about believing in God, right? That's the morality you believe in.
no, my personal morality came from, okay, I feel things, and because I feel things and I look like other people, I can assume that other people like because I have the form of other people, I assume that their insides look like my insides as well. Therefore, they probably feel what I feel. So because I don't like this, I can assume that they won't like that. So it's like treat others how you want to be treated, kind of. Like that's where like my morality came from. But then when I started looking into Jesus, he kind of just confirmed everything that I kind of like believed in, you know. But that's just like a
And
personal.
how come you looked into Jesus? What
uh,
morality, what push did you have? Was that
Um,
because your parents taught you that, or what your friends taught you that, or what was it? What was the push?
originally, originally my parents. Okay, so my grandparents are Christian, my parents were Christian, and all this other stuff. It's like,
So that's what I'm saying. You had a
yeah,
push, right?
originally though, but
It's
as
not
I kind
in
of
your
grew up.
brain originally, so you had a push.
No, no, no. But here's the thing though. I deviated from Christianity and I started looking into Hinduism, Zen, Buddhism, Taoism, and to this day I still have a great respect and reverence for those religions. I believe there is an incredible amount of wisdom to be learned from them. However, I believe that Jesus is the incarnation of God, and he took all of their wisdom and then said it in such a simpler and easier, more digestible way. But because he said it in such a simple way, a lot of people overstep the depth of it.
Like,
Because it's like when I came across Jesus, it was like, wow, this is literally what every good. Because it's like I have like an internal distinction between like what I believe is evil and what I believe is good. And when I came across Jesus, I was like, wow, this is so good that I'm not even able to fully grasp how good this is. And it's so good that it's like it made me have to change myself because it was like, wow, I don't understand why stealing from a billionaire is wrong because it's not like they're gonna miss it. But Jesus literally like Jesus had his friend who he like okay, Jesus was able to tell the future according to the Bible, right? And then his friend Judas, his disciple, kind of betrayed him and he knew that he was being betrayed and he like in the last supper it was like okay I know who's going to betray me, he hinted towards that, and then it was Judas. The day before he got crucified on the cross and tortured to literal death, he rubbed Judas's feet and he literally cried blood the day before the cross and then he got tortured to death and this and that. He is the king who wore not a crown of gold but accepted gracefully a crown of thorns. And then it was just kind of like, wow, that is what God would do. I believe this. And then I was just like, that's just my personal journey.
Dude, that's actually pretty
so
similar to me. I saw that. I felt the same. I felt similar. I'm like, when I heard the story of Jesus, I'm like, I've never even considered that there could be a good that is this good. I've never seen this before in anything else in my life.
Word. It's like every other depiction of a god is like, wow, look at how great I am. Like I have all of this gold and all of this bling. I am the god of war. I am the god of thunder. Boom, bam, I'ma zap you. Yada this and that. But then Jesus was like, no, Peter, yes, you're trying to defend me by hurting this Roman guard, but here, I will put his ear back on his head, heal the ear, like just magically put the ear back on his head. Don't hurt him, okay? And then he let the Roman guards take him. And then on the cross, since I believe he is God, he could have had angels come down and save him, but instead he looked up to the sky and said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, as they were cussing, spitting, and throwing tomatoes at him. And it's like, bro, to have that much love for other people is incredible. And that doesn't mean he doesn't have self love or anything like that. He had an incredible amount of self love, but love is sacrificial. And that is goodness that, like, it awoken inside of me. I was
Are
like,
you doing the same
wow.
thing?
You
I
said
don't want to
what?
be mean right now, but are you actually doing the same thing? What
Like, am I?
Jesus
No.
preached?
Um, unfortunately, no. I
Or
try
are
my
you
best.
just having a TED talk right here?
What do you, wait,
so,
hold on. What do you
so
mean?
Jordan, I recognize that you are kind of like have this very much an internal judgment and kind of, but I think you're disregarding what I was trying to convey earlier of much of your internal judgments and much of your knowledge is compounded from society which has afforded to you. Slapstick highlighted that he's had several different religions he's explored, which are again social artifacts, I would argue, and he's making
Um,
his choice on those, which, all due respect, all well and good.
uh, a lot of Western wisdom and intellect is actually built on the morals of Jesus Christ. And another thing that I've thought about, this is just kind of like a thought experiment. If you were to die right now and reincarnate to not have your memories, to not have your experiences, to not have the same logical mind that you have now, is your soul the type of soul that would still chase God? Is your soul the type of soul that would still chase the goodness that is beyond reasoning? You feel
Hey,
me?
Slapstick.
Like how does the heart and the mind change the nature of the soul? And that's not really present in like you can't really prove that with science or anything like that, but it's just a
Hey,
cool
Slapstick.
thing to think about.
So the server. I don't know if you're new to the server. Maybe you might be new to the server. Um, the if you read the rules, and this is there can be kind of like a a fine line with this, but there's a sort of a rule against proselytizing. And I think that like it becomes sort of like difficult to discern sometimes when somebody is like passionate about a given topic or subject, or where it's sort of impacted their life. I feel like just because of the frequency with which you sort of like reveal back to this conviction and wanting to kind of like, you talked about like wanting to do like Bible readings or something earlier, and I feel like you kind of are consistently directing the conversation toward that.
I'm
Um,
sorry. I'm sorry. If you want to redirect the conversation towards something,
no.
I
I'm just saying. I'm just giving you a general kind of like heads up about like
yeah,
just the nature of this kind of survey. I'm not to say that like you can't speak about your religious convictions or how they
yeah,
inform your moral stance in this case, or whatever. And there's a point to be made, and there's quite a few like religious people on the server, and they talk about a lot of the philosophical ideas about theology and how those have happened. It's including some quite ardent kind of practitioners and academics on here, but I think it's like I don't know. It's a hard thing to for me to adjudicate exactly sometimes, like exactly when somebody's doing it and when somebody's not. But just like
I
you
am
might want
not
to like,
actively.
yeah,
I,
go ahead.
I am not actively trying to change people's minds. I am just making conversation and just putting my thoughts out there. And since I love Jesus so much, I think about him all of the time. And he is the foundation, he is the rock of all of my understanding. Because I believe that since I'm human, I am inherently ignorant. But I believe that Jesus is God who came down to reveal a light for
Sure.
us to follow. Like he is the
Right. And
shepherd.
like, but you have to be willing for somebody to kind of like in the at the same breath sort of like critique your ideas and like
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
right, like including for like an atheist like me or somebody like that. So
Yeah, yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying it's like it's just be aware of that. You might want to kind of like
I do.
it's a fine line, and I tend to kind of like just to be frank and not to be like too
I
aggressive. I don't somebody's self prescription for proselytizing is usually fairly inaccurate. Like if you're saying that you're not doing it, that's not really.
Yeah, I
I don't.
agree.
It seems it kind of feels to me like you are.
I agree.
But just keep it in mind. That's all I'm asking.
Um, I don't realize my own ignorance. So if I am talking about Jesus or anything like that too much, or I'm continuously bringing the conversation
If
back to
if
him,
you if
don't
you
be afraid to
bring
tell me
every
shut up.
conversation to that, then that might start to be a problem. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Man,
just
okay.
maybe just have that be the barometer, or like the
The
guideline.
way that I think about myself, I'm very self-assured. I don't take offense to anything. I was that dickhead back in middle school that would make fun of people and get made fun of and just always talk crap. I hung out with the kids who were constantly talking crap, having a lot of fun. I don't get my feelings hurt easily whatsoever. If you want to tell me to shut up,
No.
please.
I'm just saying, like, okay,
But I
like
do.
have the guideline be like try to like listen to the conversation, see where it's at, and don't try to steer every conversation toward your faith. I would ask.
Oh yeah,
So, just,
I'm not purposefully doing it. So
I'm just
yeah,
uh,
yeah, 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 yeah,
you
yeah.
just we could just leave it at that. That's fine. I don't want to like make too big of a deal of it. But
Yeah,
anyway.
all right, that's fine.
If you have questions, you can about that point or whatever, you can ask staff or
Could
Smod
you
Mail or
could you
whatever. So.
point me to where I can read the guidelines
Yeah,
so
I
that
mean
I
the
can
rules are up top. Like you could kind
okay,
of like
okay.
read those, and if you have
I haven't
specific
read them.
questions about that, I encourage you to contact Mod Mail or ask staff or whatever. So anyway, sorry, proceed.
All right, bet. But um, okay. Well, if y'all want to take the conversation a different direction, I'm only talking now because nobody else is talking. We can talk about whatever y'all want to talk about. But what is y'all's opinion on nature versus nurture when it comes to religion? Because I do feel like a lot of people tend to stick with the religion that they're born with, and they're only inside of that religion for cultural reasons. For me personally, I picked what I believed in because I stepped away from it and then came back. But like, what is y'all's like relationship with that? Like, you just said you're atheist. Were you born into a certain religion and then you rejected that notion or whatever? Just to like pick people's minds about stuff. Or
Quick summation, I'd say nature versus nurture can be a false dichotomy and is brought into too many times in situations where it's not applicable. And as for kind of religion, yes, social influence can play a part.
Yeah, and slapstick. I'd like to answer that because I was brought up like a Protestant, probably until about 16 years old. I gained an interest in religion and philosophy, and I read a good deal of Buddhism and a lot of like New Age texts as well. Not all of them were like historical or really that good. I got into Neoplatonism maybe 5 years after that at about 25, 24. And then I got into
I love
Vajrayana
you.
Buddhism. Yeah. I'd say, but I was born Christian, and not that my parents were supremely religious, but we did read the Bible as a family, and I was taken to church every Sunday. I did go to Bible study. I have to say, me personally, I never felt any really any attachment to it. I was not drawn towards it. To me, it was like, to be perfectly honest, it was like a chore, right? It was like, oh, I got to wake up and go to church. I would much rather be sleeping. But that's not to say I had no interest in that kind of thing. Just
Um,
Christianity just didn't stick with me.
could you summarize your views on Neoplatonism? Because I have done a very light research. I have not looked into it a lot, but it draws a lot of parallels with Gnosticism, and I used to just be a really big fan of Gnosticism.
Uh, yeah, for sure. Of course, like starting like historically, classically it starts with Plotinus, but there were Middle Platonists that um, were of influence. His teacher was Ammonius Saccas. Some people thought Ammonius might have been a Christian. Some people think that Plotinus was influenced by Hindu scriptures because he was a part of a war party that went into India. Again, a lot of historical evidence for that. But basically, it's an emanationist schematic with the one at the top, followed by the intelligible world, which is like Plato's world of forms. You have the
Yeah.
world soul, and then you have the physical cosmos. And like the prime directive of Neoplatonism is for the soul that is incarnated into matter to reascend back to conscious unity with the one, and that's done through I mean, there's the ethical component, and then there's like a contemplative component as well, where there's like a turning back of the mind, a turning back of consciousness into the center of the soul, which is
Yeah.
itself already pre-united with the intelligible and the one, which is obviously like the foundation of existence, the source of every striving, and so on and so forth. So.
One thing that I've thought about before is like to the individual, reality is only inside of their head. So the brain is bigger than reality because the brain is the thing that perceives it, witnesses it, and then everything you see is you have to acknowledge that it's only within your own head. So to the individual, their brain is bigger than reality, and then their soul is bigger than their brain. So I feel like it's like imagine like being in a room and like painting your wall like with like what you see outside of the window and then like trying to walk outside of the window to embrace reality only to realize you are still within the room of your mind because to walk outside is to still be within your mind and your own senses and the only way to truly step without is to go through within and then like through your own mind and then I believe like the chakras are a good way to bring like an understanding to like how to kind of like spiritually elevate through like yourself and like go within and like meditation and all that. Do you
Mm.
meditate?
Yes, I do.
Have you ever had
Yeah, I
any
do.
experiences?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Have you ever had like any crazy experiences?
Well, okay, so I did a lot of lucid dreaming stuff, and I read books about like they call it astral projection. It's
Dreams are so interesting, bro. And astral projection too, I love that.
yeah, like so I was successful, and I was like really dedicated, and I was like 18 years old, and I had a lot of free time at the time. I didn't have a job, and I
Yeah,
wasn't going to school, but
literally.
I did have a lot of experiences. Some of them were like really intense, some of them were scary, some of them were really interesting and profound, but yeah, what do you want to know? What do you want to know?
how open are you to like getting personal about like experiences and stuff?
I mean, I don't really hold back too much. I think it's
Okay, so you
hard to
like
describe
can't
though.
cross the bridge when you get there type deal?
I need sorry, my headphones were really quiet. Let me turn you up a little bit.
Like we can cross the bridge when we get there type deal? Like regarding the question I just asked about like how personal, like if I do ask a personal question, like feel free to like shoot me down type because like sometimes I shy away from asking too many questions because I tend to ask a lot. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, for sure, man. I won't take any offense to it.
okay, so enlightening experiences. One of the happiest moments I've ever been was like when I was meditating and I was listening to like godly, like good kind of music and I was kind of like just jamming. And then like it was just like this buzzing that filled within me. And like in that moment, it was like, bro, I don't want to do anything like I would normally do. Like I don't want to go out and party with friends. I don't want to like slap box or like cuss at no man, like, cause it's like I find that fun. It's not from a heart of evil. It's just like me and my friends are dickheads to each other. We will get on the game, we will argue. I'll be like, man, like what you want, 30? And then like we would like I would skateboard over to his house. We would slap box. I'd slap his titties in his face, and we would just laugh around, joke around, like because it's like you slap box, kind of like fight for 30 seconds in a friendly way, and then you dap up afterwards, and then go about your business. So it's like that's the type of person. But it's like when I was meditating, I realized bro, I don't want any of that evilness. This is so beautiful right now. Like, I don't want to go, like, I don't want to, like, overindulge in food. I don't want to, like, have any pride. I don't want to, like, do this or do that. I don't, bro, this is peace. I love this. And it's like, it was just kind of like this almost enlightening experience that I kind of like sometimes I remember it. And then it's like the remembrance of it is like kind of like reminds me of a shadow of what that experience was truly like because it's not like I step within the experience every time I remember it. I just kind of acknowledge it and then try to like stay within it, kind of. But then forgetfulness, I believe, is of the devil and is of division. But we are prone to ignorance because that is in our nature as humans, only to be within ourselves, but sharing the experience with others. But it's like, could you like tell me about like a really like have you like what are some like enlightening kind of moments you've had on like meditation, like on the good side of it, before like indulging on like the bad or scary sides that you mentioned?
So I've had experiences of non-self, and it's what it's called in Buddhism. So I became completely detached from the unfolding of my mind. So I was in a state of pure awareness or pure consciousness. That's what I was identified with, and I was watching my mind unfold, and I was watching myself think and have feelings and various sensations. But there was a complete lack of any volitional feeling. So the illusion was broken because normally they talk about the ego as this idea of volition and will, that you have an identity and the identity is in some manner or form or fashion in control of the activity of the mind. So you say this is my thought, this is my feeling, and so forth.
Yeah,
But in this state of non-self, I get a very clear picture because I was completely detached from the unfolding of my mind, that there's no I controlling the unfoldment. So there were thoughts and feelings and so forth that were unfolding, but there's no self involved in that unfolding. And it was incredibly profound. I mean, eventually I came back, and now I'm kind of like ego identified again. But that was
yeah.
a very powerful experience for sure.
That kind of reminds me of like this, like the way that I would explain that is like you're watching like a car pass by on the road. Yes, you observed that, but is what you observed a piece of yourself? How come we watch our hands and like we observe our hands and we observe our thoughts, but does this make us us? You feel me? It's like, are we what we observe or are we the observer? If I'm observing myself, am I what I deem to be myself? And it's just like, I don't know if that's true. I can't prove that with science. It's just like a cool thought experiment to kind of like unfold or open your mind, however you would go about that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a good description.
Okay. Have you like sometimes when I meditate, it's like watching a movie behind my eyelids. It's like if you've ever gone fishing before, you catch a small fish, you release it, let it swim away, It goes to the family, it grows up, and then it comes back as a bigger fish. When you have a thought swim into your mind, because your mind is like a receiver, when you have a thought swim into your brain, you allow it to swim away and then return as something more. And then it's like when you allow your thoughts to become what they want to be, it's just like cool, you know? And it's like when you get into like the linguistics, the language this of it, like the philosophy of language and how language is like a barrier, I believe that promotes individuality, but it's like you cannot thoroughly explain a thought, because we fill each other's words with our own understanding. So I can't really explain the thoughts that I've become in my own mind to another. It is up to the individual to explore their own soul, which is pretty interesting to think about.
Would that make your mind a transceiver if it received information but also put it out? Like, it goes both ways, right?
Yeah, it's like you receive information and then it bounces the information off of the previous information it's received. And then like when you
Yeah,
realize
it's called a
something,
transceiver.
yeah, well, again, language. You feel me? It's limited. I'm not the best
Well, I
relator.
mean, it's a pretty accurate use of language to call it what it is, what it does.
Word.
Do you mean your language, or do you mean language as a whole?
Well, me specifically, my language and my vocabulary, I have
Yeah.
kind of like I have a difficult relationship with like intellectualizing experiences because I realize that God is goodness beyond comprehension. So in order
Right,
to
but when you
speak,
shit on language and you're saying you just don't know the words, that's kind of dishonest.
well, I think you should talk to the dude that I was just talking to when he was getting really deep into linguistics. Like I don't know. Like it's like
I
this,
mean,
right?
I'm just talking to you because you're the one that said the word.
Word, word, word. It's like you have a thought in your mind and then it takes multiple words to explain the single thought that you had. You feel me? And it might take a really long time to thoroughly explain that one thought. It's like trying to learn how to draw. Like you can picture something in
Okay.
your mind, but you have to practice how to draw. I haven't really practiced my words,
Okay.
but you can accurately perceive the things that you think, you know? Or
Right, but I mean, like, if you're trying to explain that shit, like, it'd help if you knew the words, right?
yeah, but then I feel like also like in a general sense, there is a limiter between the tongue and the ear. Because it's like I can
Well,
explain
it shouldn't
something.
be limited not only by, like, say the iniquity of the word to express the idea of what it is you're trying to convey, and then also the hurdle of I'm not using the right words.
It's also kind of like this, right? It's like I could explain a chair to you because the chair is brown, it has four legs. These are things that you've seen
Mhm.
before because like you take the pattern of what you recognize a chair to be and then take your understanding of a chair and then fill the your understanding into my word of the chair. But
Right.
when I
See,
say
but this is what I mean about knowing the words, because none of that made sense.
okay,
Like,
so
I get what you meant. Like, I can infer that, but saying that I fill your words with under my understanding. I mean, I understand interpretation. I understand, differentiating syntax and stuff like that. But that's
if
a
I
nothing statement.
If I okay, well, I was about to get to the point. If I say the word love, where do you look to see love? Do you look to your mother? Okay, well, your mother is your mother. That is a separate thing from love. Love is the feeling. When I say fear, what do you look to? Do you look to a grizzly bear and the feeling of being afraid? These feelings
Yeah,
are something that
especially
we
if I'm thinking
experience.
of Smokey the Bear. He's cool. I love Smokey.
Yeah, but it's like these feelings are something that we experience individually, and it is up to the
Mhm. No, I know
individual
you're
to.
talking about an interpretive conceptualization. Yeah, and that's fine too, but that's something we all experience the same way. Like, you and I both know what the word love intonates, but we define it differently. I mean,
But it can
that's
also go to
easy
different.
to relate without having to give a bunch of murky allegory.
I suppose. I'm just yapping right now. I'm gonna keep it a buck.
Yeah, I know.
uh,
I know I'm fucking with you, but I'm just saying.
just for some background, I'm 17. I've been into philosophy since around like maybe like 14, but I've never truly like been taught philosophy. It's all
Hell yeah,
self.
dude.
Like
Like,
you feel
I
me? I'm just
I
kind of like
actually think philosophy is kind of
correct
a
me
bunch of
where I'm
horse shit,
wrong.
but
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
What do you think is not horseshit?
Fake
Bullshit.
shit.
See? um, No, I mean, like, I don't, not that, like, philosophical concepts are all bullshit. I'm just saying, like, it's kind of the same feel. Like in science, you can pick any scientist that you like, and that's your guy. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm all about fucking relativity because of Einstein, or I'm all about Newtonian standard model because of right. You like pick the one that you appreciate the most, and that becomes your modality behind like the rest of your involvement. It's like philosophy seems to follow the same track.
Yeah, it's like people need like a rock to build the rest of their understanding on because you can't build a house by starting with the roof.
Well, what I mean is people tend to get so leaned into a particular say philosophical construct that they might
I think
implicitly
that
negate another one, and then we're not talking about like philosophy. We're just talking about one philosopher versus another. It's more WWE than philosophy.
nah, I feel you.
Mm.
Yeah, I've only really looked into like Plato stuff, and then like I've seen like a lot of YouTube videos, like Alan Watts talked about some stuff. I've read some books about like Buddha. I've looked a lot into Christianity, Zoe Tao, stuff like that, because
Oh
like
yeah,
I
dude.
find a lot of philosophy in religion. I find a lot because philosophy is the love of wisdom, and I find religions to be very wise. So I explore that a lot. But
Ah,
I am
so I
definitely
would say continue to read.
word. I got I'm a little bit lazy sometimes though, so I just be sticking to the YouTube videos. By the way, if any of y'all have any
Give me
cool
some Cliff's
philosophers that
notes.
y'all
All right.
feel free to put them in chat. I will screenshot it and I will go and research it. I love being put on the information.
I just read The Varieties of Religious Experience by William James. Definitely a classic in like religious literature. Good mix. He gives a lot of accounts of people that are having purported direct experiences with the divine, or it's also a chapter called the Sick Soul, where he's kind of giving the opposite of that. It's talking about he calls it the twice born people that have some go from a highly depressive, fallen kind of state to like having a spiritual revelation and turning their lives around. There's a
Word.
chapter on philosophy as well, and he's actually I think maybe in line with Ingwe as well, because he gives a lot of different accounts